Milwaukee police have now linked a little boy found wandering the streets to a woman found murdered.
The two scenes more than 3 miles apart. 12 News' Hannah Hilliard is live at 41st and Hampton. Hannah, this is a tragic twist.
Absolutely, Ray and Blake. You may remember yesterday, Milwaukee police put out an alert asking the public for help in identifying a little boy found wandering alone. Well, today they say that little boy is related to a woman found dead in these bushes here near 41st and Hampton.
A little boy, barefoot in the cold, alone in the pre-dawn darkness of Milwaukee, wandering along 9th Street and Keefe Avenue with no shoes, no socks, just torn clothes and a silent fear in his eyes. His shirt was stained with blood, not his own. Just hours later, at around 9 a.m., police found his mother, 31-year-old A'nya Raymond, slumped in a shady alley near 41st and Hampton, riddled with gunshot wounds. She'd fought, her last act likely one of protecting her son, but she didn't make it. And the boy? He became a silent witness to something that changed lives forever. Welcome to True Crime 911, where we bring you real stories of lives interrupted, voices silenced, and justice still waiting. Before we begin, I noticed that 75% of you watching aren't subscribed. If you're okay reading this story and doing nothing, just scrolling on by, then that's your choice. But if you believe people like A'nya deserve to be remembered, their stories to be told, then hit subscribe now, because one day it could be your story that needs to be heard. A'nya Raymond was not just a face in a tragic headline. She was a devoted mother, the kind of parent who put her son's needs above her own. Her son, described by prosecutors as nonverbal and autistic, relied on her in every way. Day in and day out, A'nya showed a kind of strength that didn't come from being fearless, but from being deeply responsible. According to her family, she was the kind of mom who would drop everything at a moment's notice just to make sure he felt safe. She worked to build a steady, caring life for both of them, navigating a world that doesn't always make things easy for parents of children with special needs. When times got hard, she was still there, protecting him, comforting him, doing whatever she could so he would know he wasn't alone. In her final moments, according to court documents, she instinctively tried to defend both of them. Prosecutors say when she was forced into a car with her son, she reached for mace and a knife in a desperate effort to keep him safe. That maternal instinct, that fierce protective love, is what made what happened next all the more heartbreaking, because A'nya's fight wasn't just for her own life. It was for her child's future. In the heart of Milwaukee, A'nya Raymond was well known in her neighborhood. A close-knit circle of friends, neighbors, and fellow parents who saw her not just as a tenant, but as someone who quietly held her world together. Those around her remember her warm laughter, her willingness to check on people, and her fierce devotion to her son. According to her mother and longtime acquaintances, she carried a strength that wasn't loud or brash, but steady, dependable. Someone who even in hard times showed up for others. She lived in a part of Milwaukee where community matters. Neighbors looked out for each other. Block parties and late-night conversations on porches weren't rare. Her presence was calming and reassuring. People would say she had a gift for making a house feel like a home, especially for her little boy who couldn't always speak for himself. Her love for her son went beyond the ordinary. She carried the weight of his world on her shoulders. She protected him fiercely. Family and friends say she always made sure he was safe, that he felt seen. Even when things got tense, she never lost that grounded, maternal spirit. When she worried, she did so quietly, but you could tell by the way she held her child, how deeply she cared. But just weeks before her death, A'nya confided in more than one person that she felt watched, that someone was following her, someone she couldn't escape. Kevin Griffin was the landlord of the very building where much of the tragedy would unfold. A 54-year-old man with a stern, unshakable presence. According to prosecutors, Griffin owned the duplex on 12th Street and Capitol Drive in Milwaukee. Neighbors described him as quiet, reserved. But behind that calm facade was someone few dared to challenge. Reports say he had a volatile side, especially where his property was concerned. Upstairs in Griffin's rental unit lived Terrance Wilder, a 39-year-old tenant. Wilder and Griffin had a contentious history. Wilder allegedly complained to city officials about leaking faucets, a clogged drain, and even a broken back door. According to city records, Wilder had taken his frustrations to the Milwaukee Department of Neighborhood Services. That tension, prosecutors say, boiled over in the early hours of November 5. Griffin and Wilder argued about the back door. Griffin believed Wilder was involved in some kind of drug deal in the upstairs unit. In Griffin's own words, he just lost it. He allegedly shot Wilder in his bedroom. But this wasn't just a landlord-tenant dispute. A'nya Raymond, the woman who would become Griffin's second victim, was reportedly in that same apartment with her young, non-verbal son when the first shooting happened. Prosecutors say Griffin saw her and her child, and he forced them both into his car shortly after. The hostility between Griffin and Wilder, simmering for months, had escalated into something far darker, and A'nya's presence that day, innocence or not, made her a target. If a mother like A'nya, who spent every day guarding her son, navigating a world that didn't always make sense to him, could end up alone in a dark alley, imagine how fast life can change. If you believe everyone deserves justice and every story deserves to be heard, then subscribe right now. And if you choose not to, tell us in the comments why her story wasn't worth it. In the weeks leading up to November 25, 2025, those close to A'nya Raymond began to notice something shifting, a quiet edge of fear creeping into her everyday life. According to sources, A'nya confided that she felt threatened. She told a friend she was being watched. She didn't frame it as paranoia. She said she saw things she wished she hadn't. Court records reveal that conflict was already boiling over in her building. Her landlord, Kevin Griffin, had a long-simmering dispute with his tenant, Terrance Wilder. Wilder had filed formal complaints with the city, citing leaking faucets, a clogged drain, and even a broken back door. According to city records, Wilder had taken his frustrations to the Milwaukee Department of Neighborhood Services. That tension, prosecutors say, boiled over in the early hours of November 5. Griffin and Wilder argued about the back door. Griffin believed Wilder was involved in some kind of drug deal in the upstairs unit. In Griffin's own words, he just lost it. He allegedly shot Wilder in his bedroom. But A'nya, her mother, who eyes wide open as the events started to unfold, according to the criminal complaint, she told Griffin she understood, but declined to say anything to authorities. Friends say the fear in her voice had grown stronger. One friend recalled how A'nya said, "I saw something I wished I'd never seen." But she didn't realize how dangerous her truth was. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and those warnings she let slip would cost her everything.
Did you recognize this woman at all?
I don't, no, not at all.
At any point, did you hear gunshots?
No gunshot at all. To my recognition and stuff like that, she must have been, killed somewhere else and brought here.
On November 5, 2025, in a duplex on 12th Street and Capitol Drive, the conflict between Kevin Griffin and his tenant Terrance Wilder exploded into fatal violence. According to court documents, Griffin had been attempting to evict Wilder, arguing over open back doors, possible illicit activity, and unresolved property complaints. Prosecutors say Griffin believed Wilder was involved in a drug deal inside his upstairs unit. In Griffin's own words, he just lost it, and that loss of control proved deadly. Terrance Wilder was later found in his bedroom, face up on his bed, with a single gunshot wound to his chest. The medical examiner ruled it a homicide. According to the criminal complaint, A'nya Raymond and her young, nonverbal son were in the apartment that morning. Prosecutors say after Wilder was shot, Griffin ordered A'nya and her son into his car. In that moment, everything changed. A'nya wasn't just a bystander. She became a witness. A liability. And for that, she was marked. After the first gunshot echoed through the duplex, the terror didn't end for A'nya Raymond. Prosecutors say Kevin Griffin forced her and her young nonverbal son into his car, leaving them with nowhere to run, no one to call for help. Inside that small, confined space, the reality of the situation hit A'nya like a punch to the chest. She was a mother, trained by instinct to protect her child, and she refused to give up without a fight. Court documents indicate she brandished mace and a knife, desperate to keep Griffin at bay. Every attempt to push him away, every strike of her arm, was a life-or-death struggle. Her son sat silently in the back seat, unable to speak or fully comprehend the danger surrounding him. His small hands clutched the seat, eyes wide with fear, blood from earlier scuffles smudged his shirt. In those moments, Anya's world shrank to two things: survival and protecting him at all costs. The minutes dragged on like hours. Every turn Griffin made, every glance in the rearview mirror added to the tension. Anya's heart pounded, not just for herself, but for her son, the small boy who had already endured so much, who trusted her entirely. In her struggle, she fought not just for her life, but for his future. You're still watching, which means some part of you believes her story matters. But if you're not subscribed yet, ask yourself, why? Are you just an observer, or are you someone who speaks for the voiceless? Hit subscribe, because witnesses are silenced every day until no one remembers their names. And if you still won't subscribe, explain in the comments why their stories don't matter. For A'nya, each second was a battle against the inevitability closing in. Her instinct, her courage, her maternal drive, all tested in that car on Milwaukee streets that would soon witness a tragedy no one could ignore. Minutes after being forced into the car, A'nya Raymond's desperate fight for survival came to a tragic and irreversible end. According to prosecutors, Kevin Griffin pulled over in a deserted alley near 41st Street and Hampton Avenue in Milwaukee and fired 6 to 8 shots at A'nya, each one ending the life of a mother who had spent every moment protecting her young, nonverbal son. Her body was left in the shadows, dumped in the alleyway where it would be discovered hours later by police responding to concerned neighbors. The quiet Milwaukee street, once familiar and ordinary, became the scene of unspeakable violence. Residents described the area as normally peaceful, the kind of place where neighbors knew each other and looked out for one another. On that morning, it became a place of terror. Investigators report that A'nya's young son, nonverbal and barely able to communicate his fear, may have been present in the car during the shooting, witnessing the attack in stunned silence. Hours later, he would be found wandering alone, barefoot, wearing his mother's blood-stained clothing. His small frame, trembling and confused, revealed a child who had endured trauma no child should ever experience. In those final moments, A'nya's every movement and every instinct was centered on protecting her son. Her courage, her maternal strength, and her desperate attempts to survive all culminated in a struggle that was heartbreakingly futile against Griffin's lethal actions. The evidence suggests that she may have tried to shield him even as bullets tore through the air around her. Court records describe her bravery as instinctive, a mother refusing to let harm come to the one person who depended entirely on her. As the shots rang out, the last thing she may have seen was her son's face, the small eyes she had nurtured, full of trust and innocence, staring at her in confusion and fear. That image, fleeting as it was, became the final connection between mother and child, a haunting testament to her protective instincts and the suddenness with which her life ended. Her son, left alone and silent in the back of the car, would carry the memory of that horrific morning for the rest of his life. A silent witness to a violence no child should ever know, his presence marked him forever. The alley, the gunshots, and the mother who fought to protect him all would remain etched in his memory and in the minds of a city struggling to comprehend how quickly life can change. Hours after the shooting, Milwaukee police received a call about a young boy wandering the streets alone. Barefoot, his clothes stained with blood, he moved slowly, unsure, trembling in the early morning cold. The child was nonverbal, unable to explain what had happened or why he was alone. Officers noted the silence was not defiance. It was the stunned reaction of a boy who had just witnessed something terrifying. The blood on his shirt and pants became the first clue in what would quickly unfold into a major homicide investigation. Social workers and police acted quickly to ensure the child's safety. His small frame, clutching himself as he walked, carried the weight of trauma far beyond his years. Even without words, his presence told investigators everything they needed to know. He had seen the violence, and he held the key to understanding what happened to his mother, A'nya Raymond. Silent, frightened, and alone, the child became the central witness to a crime that had shocked Milwaukee. What he had seen that morning would soon guide investigators toward the truth. Once A'nya Raymond's body was discovered in the alley near 41st Street and Hampton Avenue, Milwaukee police immediately began piecing together the sequence of events that had led to her death. Investigators meticulously examined DNA evidence, the timeline of the shootings, and the clothing A'nya and her son had been wearing that morning. Each detail reinforced the grim reality. A mother had been murdered in cold blood, and her young son had been present during the crime. The police quickly connected the boy to his mother. His blood-stained clothing matched evidence at the scene, and officers realized that his presence in the back seat during the shootings was the key to understanding what had happened inside Griffin's car. For detectives, every piece of evidence, from fingerprints to ballistics to the child's own silent testimony, began forming a picture of the events that had unfolded that morning. It became clear that the boy had not only witnessed the tragedy, he was a critical witness whose silence spoke volumes. His presence explained the precise sequence of events, confirmed the identity of the perpetrator, and became the focal point for the investigation moving forward. And the boy was the silent witness. Within days of the killings, Milwaukee police located and arrested Kevin Griffin, the 54-year-old landlord accused of murdering Terrance Wilder and A'nya Raymond. He was formally charged with 2 counts of intentional homicide, facing life-altering legal consequences for his actions. Investigators say the alleged motive was chillingly clear. Griffin allegedly sought to eliminate any witnesses to his first shooting, and that included A'nya Raymond. Court filings indicate that during questioning, he showed cold, unremorseful behavior, admitting to actions that led to the deaths of both Wilder and Raymond. The arrest brought some clarity, but offered little comfort to the family. Misty Raymond, Anya's mother, spoke publicly about the devastating loss of her daughter, describing the young mother as brave, devoted, and full of love for her son. Her words painted a picture of a woman whose life had been violently cut short while trying to protect the one person she loved most. The Milwaukee community responded with grief and solidarity. A vigil was held in Anya's honor, with neighbors, friends, and strangers gathering to remember her life. GoFundMe campaigns were launched to support her son, and local organizations stepped in to provide therapy and trauma support for the child, ensuring he would have the resources needed for long-term healing. Her son, though nonverbal, became the focus of ongoing care. Social workers, therapists, and family members rallied around him, helping him navigate the aftermath of a tragedy no child should endure. Every effort was aimed at giving him safety, stability, and the chance to heal from the loss of his mother, the woman who had fought so fiercely to protect him until her final moments. Stories like A'nya Raymond's, they don't just appear on your screen. Hours of research, digging through court records, police reports, interviews, and news archives go into every detail you just watched. Each fact, each timeline, each emotional beat is carefully pieced together so her story and her son's can be remembered. If you felt the weight of this story, if it moved you even a little, then hit subscribe now. Every subscription ensures that these voices aren't lost, that the stories of the innocent and the overlooked continue to reach the world. And if you're still scrolling past without subscribing, I want you to ask yourself, why not? Why wouldn't you help preserve a story that matters? Go ahead, leave a comment explaining why you won't subscribe. I'll read every single one. Because the truth is, witnesses, victims, and stories like A'nya's are silenced every day unless someone speaks for them.